Thank you. Well, it seems that we've got quite the group here today, so welcome. Just to introduce myself, I've been working in the B2B space, primarily financial services. Over the last decade, I've been helping them with digital marketing all the way from strategy, experience, and technology. And we do service a lot of organizations from a perspective of getting their portals and whether it's customer, distribution, and a variety of other portals in the insurance space up to speed. So without any further ado, I'll do a quick introduction to eDynamic, and then we can get going. We're a digital marketing technology agency. We do a lot of work in the insurance space, but we also have a broad variety of customers in other spaces as well, and we're spread over 4 countries. And this is everything we do. Everything that we do is about empowering the marketer to engage with their audiences. So from strategy, experience, and technology, we provide capabilities that allow marketers to engage with their audiences. So talking about the agenda for today, there's 4 key items that I thought would be worth covering. So the first part of the agenda would be to do with a new producer. So there's a new producer out there who wants to, where there's a lot of competition, needs better engagement from the carriers, whether these are independent producers or if they're even agents who are retained. There's a variety of producers out there that ultimately they need better engagement from the carriers, and we'll talk a little bit about their needs and who they are. We'll also talk about emerging trends, some of the things that we're seeing in terms of the maturity of distribution portals in terms of how organizations are trying to engage with their producers. We'll also talk about specific key aspects of distribution portals, and then talk about how can you get to engaging design. So 4 key points. We'll get an opportunity to ask questions towards the end, so let's get going. But let's first cover what you will get from this webinar, what this is and what this isn't. So this is not a webinar that will cover data, statistics, or it's not a research study. And the reason is that eDynamic as an agency, we see ourselves as a consultant that provides specific practical guidance to our clients. And it's not about providing data which they have to interpret and actually use. It's our job to provide that practical guidance based on interpretation of data. So there's a bit of a different flair than you would have seen from research analysts. So the guidance you'll get will be very specific and hopefully of a different flavor. So let's talk about the new producer. Generally, when we're working with our clients, what we're seeing is that there's this producer where there's this changing demographic where producers now are younger, they're tech savvy. There's obviously, broad range of producers out there, but the demographic is changing. They're getting tech savvy. There's, generally this has been consistent over a period of time that there's a lack of time. They're really focused on efficiency. They need to get stuff done, and the last thing they want is some cumbersome system coming in their way. They're focused on relationships, and that's just not out with their customers. They're actually focused on relationships with carriers as well. So relationships are really important to producers. And the primary salespeople, they are focused on closing. They need to close business. And anything that gets in the way of them closing business, it's just a distraction. And what we keep hearing from them is, it's a lonely world. Whether they're retained, they're independent, doesn't matter. They say that, ultimately their compensation is linked with their ability to deliver results. And they need help. They need to feel that the carriers are helping them in any way they can to enable them to be successful. So the producers have a profile which leads them to a point where they start to ask questions of carriers. So when we talk to producers and ask them what's really important in terms of what carriers should deliver to them, it starts with ease of doing business. So whether if you've got a portal out there, it could be ease of use of the portal. Essentially for them to get their task done in the simplest possible way. And that's where it always starts. Ease of connectivity. There's a lot of frustration in just getting access to information, the multiple logins that carriers provide. Ease of connectivity is really important to producers. And then tools that improve productivity and sales. So producers want tools that can help them sell more, faster, and be more efficient and build those relationships with their customers. And they believe that the carriers are not just there to book business for them. The carriers are there to actually help them improve productivity and sales. They're looking for improved engagement with the carriers. They're focused on relationships. They need to feel that they're being serviced well, and that's where customer service comes in. So these are some of the key points that we see that producers really comes down to a few key points when we think about how you as carriers can produce portals and create experiences that deliver something engaging to producers. These are key points you've got to keep in mind because this is what's important to them. So when we ask producers what's really important to them, what they tell us is that sites have to be simplified. They need to be easier to navigate. They tell us that they'll place more business with carriers who give them a simpler experience, make it easy for them to do business. So this is very real in terms of transactions and revenue. Our clients ask us, well, will improving the website really increase the revenue or transactions? The answer is yes. Producers tell us so. So producers are interested in a lot of tools. They need e-applications, they need CRM, e-signatures. There's a lot of tools that they ask for, and quite often when those tools are not available from one carrier, if they're working with several carriers, they would do business somewhere else. So what we're seeing is that the needs of the producers is driving a trend. What we're seeing with distribution portals, in the early 2000s you had these informational portals, which were brochure-aware and provided simple information. They moved towards mid to late 2000 transactional portals, so more content, more tools, e-applications, line of business integration, but limited personalization. So a lot of information going out, very little coming back to the carrier. Now what we're seeing is this shift which is occurring, or we feel needs to occur, towards a digital engagement between the carrier and the producer, where the relationship is collaborative, where if they touch your digital asset, it should be two-way dialogue, where the experience has to be personalized. We've seen numerous portals which are not personalized, and there's all kinds of information available. When you throw too much at the producer who's just looking to do simple things, they get confused and they go away. And we've seen this time and time again. We're also hearing from producers there's this need to seamlessly integrate with their environment. So when you think about your digital portal, when you think about your distribution portal, it has to be beyond the portal itself, and to asking yourself how you can actually integrate into their business processes and actually execute, help them execute business faster. Mobile is really important. Producers are on the field, and mobile is now cross-channel. So whether it's a mobile device, tablet experience, or perhaps on desktops, experiences across channels are important, because you'd be surprised as to how much mobile access you would be getting from producers. If you were to look at your data, you'd be very surprised as to how much mobile access you're actually getting your way from producers. So mobile is extremely important for producers, especially on the field. So at this point, I'd like to run a quick poll. I'd love to hear where you stand in this digital maturity curve. Where are you actually positioned? I'd love to hear where you see yourself, and it'll also provide me some guidance as to how much focus I will place in the coming slides. So let's go ahead and run the poll. You should see something pop up to your right, I believe. So go ahead and take that poll. We'll wait for a minute or two. All right, so the results are in. Little surprise, not so surprised as well. So a lot of you have transactional portals. A lot of investments have been made by carriers over the last decade. And portals have been created largely from a point of view of getting information out to producers. A few of you are actually moving towards digital engagement, which is very exciting. So you're already going down the path of having that collaborative relationship with your producer, whether you have chat capability, your forums, personalization, and so on. So you're really targeting the context of the producer and helping the solution be more relevant to them. So that's very exciting, actually, to hear that a certain percentage, if not large, is actually moving towards digital engagement. So not surprised. Most of you are saying that you're transactional, and we've seen that as well. So there needs to be the shift towards digital engagement because producers have a lot of options, especially the independent ones, and even the retained ones. There's so much turnover that these tools help them become successful. So let's talk about how do you get to digital engagement. So we're going to focus on 5 key things. How do you get your portal to help to make it easy for the producer to do business with you? How do you partner in success with the producer? And how does the portal actually enable you to do that? How do you drive engagement? How do you actually engage with the producer who may not be as engaged? If you look at your data, what we see across the industry is that the return rates or the engagement rates of producers actually using portals is very low, whether they're independent, they're retained, and so on. The usage is very, very low. So if you need to actually continue to improve your portal capability, you need to almost think about it as a product. And I'll talk a little bit about how to actually start to think about it as a product and then start to build a roadmap to be successful. Ultimately, you'll need technology to be successful. You need the right technology to be able to enable you. So let's start by talking about ease of business, ease of doing business. So what we hear is something quite interesting, as I alluded to earlier. 4 in 5 producers in a LIMRA survey said they would actually place business with a carrier if this website was successful, if the portals were successful. That's significant. And then what we also hear is that carriers there's just too much information. It's too confusing. It's almost as if carriers have sat, by themselves, designed an experience and not really thought about the producer. And what we hear is that it's just too much. They are focused on selling. If you give them 10 passwords, 10 usernames, 10 different places to go, and you don't personalize the experience for them, you're going to lose them. So that's why ease of use is important. And it all starts with keeping things simple. When you're thinking about an experience of your portal, start with simple experience. Navigation has to be guided. Your page structure and page layouts have to be really improved and targeted. Help has to be contextual. You need help on the portal. Just by executing a portal and actually rolling it out without any help is going to be a portal that's not going to be very well accepted. Search across the site is quite important. Terminology. So the terminology that's relevant to you may not be relevant out to the field. And making it as simple as possible so that they understand the terminology which is relevant to them is quite important. The look and feel has to be more engaging. It's a portal. It needs to be simple, but it needs to be engaging. It should be easy to find information. We also recommend our clients to actually get feedback from surveys, analytics continuously to actually assess how easy to use their portals are. So ease of use is quite important. You need to solve the multiple login problem. I would say about 50% of the carriers that we work with have a problem of multiple logins. So you've got to log into different environments, line of business systems, and it really ranks as one of the highest pain areas for producers because no one wants to actually manage so many passwords. So single unified access will take a lot of pain away. So you log in once and you can go to any system and everything should be central and managed for the producer. We're seeing that there's a trend towards personalization. So carriers can personalize the experience based on the channel they're targeting, based on the tenure of the producer, based on their experience. So someone who's been working with a carrier for a longer period of time should get a more, I would say, advanced experience versus someone who is, who's just starting out, who needs to be shown the ropes. Because there is that turnover in the industry, which is just across the board, as I mentioned, whether it's internal or external. So it's really important to personalize the experience based on experience and tenure. Ability to self-manage, so ability to have quick links, ability to personalize the experience, and these are out-of-the-box capabilities of leading portals these days. Subscription, so it's critical to allow producers to subscribe to content, information, training that would work for them. One size does not fit all. So a subscription strategy is really important in allowing producers to pick and choose what's important to them. The other key areas around integrating the experience across line of business capabilities. So your portal should be surfacing up line of business information or features and functions all the way up to the user experience. So as opposed to going to multiple capabilities, portal should be that one location where everything is surfaced up. Mobile access, as I'd indicated, is becoming very, very important. A lot of the producers on the field, the younger demographic has mobile devices, tablets, and so on. So accessibility is key, and access will be driven by things such as providing features, such as e-signatures, illustrations, application status, customer information. The question to really ask is, what information will they need on the field? Simply rolling out everything that's in the portal to the mobile capability is not the answer. You've got to really understand what will be used when they're in the field and provide that information available to them. So whether it's e-signatures, which are quite important, then that information is probably going to be relevant for them as opposed to providing them dashboard reports which are hard to use and access on mobile devices. So we talked about ease of doing business. So let's make it easy for producers to work with you. And it starts with giving them access when they need it with the right device, giving them capabilities around the tools that they need, but then also making the experience simple and taking away, the frustration, especially on multiple logins. You'd be surprised, as I mentioned earlier, how much of an issue multiple logins is. So the other aspect is, how do you partner with producers to be successful? For external producers, co-branding is quite important. Many carriers are now starting to co-brand assets and are starting to actually position those assets as part of excuse me, as part of a producer's capability out to the audience. So allowing them to co-brand and allowing them to take assets and use them is going to allow them to be more successful. And these co-branded assets can be websites, brochureware, and so on. Training, we've heard this consistently from producers. We've interviewed producers across 15 to 20 carriers now. And what we found is that training is what's really important to them. And the training has to be when they need it and the type of training they need. And it needs to be done in a manner where they can access videos, personalized online training, webcasts. And we hear that training is one of the capabilities that they value the most. So the portal should offer training out to the producers. Marketing materials. So they need to convey the value proposition of your products and services. So being able to download brochureware, success stories, and so on, and have them available when they meet customers would be very beneficial for producers. Lead generation. So this is a topic that a lot of carriers I find struggle with. They struggle with the fact that, how do you make it fair? Should we give leads? Is it really our job to offer leads? Well, we're starting to see that some carriers are experimenting with this, so they have capability to ensure allocation is monitored and it's done in a manner that it's fair. we're hearing from producers that the ability to have CRM capability, which because they may not have made those investments themselves, will allow them to engage better with the carrier. So not only providing them leads, but having that capability to manage the leads and customers and names and so on would allow them to engage even more and more with their carriers. So this is an area which, again, a lot of carriers do not offer this capability, but we're seeing that some are now starting to offer this capability more and more. Then it comes down to the tools that will make them productive and efficient, such as pending status, e-applications, e-signatures, marketing campaigns, reporting and analytics. So there's a variety of such features. We actually track several hundred of these, and if you have any need for a list of these features, reach out to us and we'll be happy to share a list that we track that you could potentially consider for your portals. Recognition awards are really important. We live in a social world, so we've seen leaderboards, producer badges, etc. being applied where producers are really being recognized. So you need to socialize with the producers, and offering recognition through the portal is something that can really improve engagement. So let's talk about how you will engage with these producers. The producers are asking for social capabilities. They're asking for forums, social networking. Carriers are resistant. There's all kinds of rules that are applicable, but even within the social sphere, there are things that can easily be done, which perhaps can be considered social, but all it is managing that two-way communication with the producer. So there's a lot of restrictions in the industry, but there are ways to get around it. So to drive better collaboration, we've seen things like real-time chat, discussion forums. We've seen search capabilities with allowing people to work together on applications, ability to access information, CRM capability, document management, ability to load a document and store it and have version control. So better collaboration between the carrier and the independent agent or any producer would lead to more business. Information sharing is quite important. So creating a platform where best practices are shared, there's collaboration and communication tools available. So the more open carriers are becoming in terms of sharing information, the better relationships they share with producers. Social media, as I said, it's a topic of quite a bit of conversation in the industry right now. But I think it's a great tool to actually engage with the audience. There's no better tool than social media than to have that ongoing dialogue with your producers. Emails, you can only send out so many emails at a time. You can only put out so many messages on the message boards. How many surveys can you actually roll out? If you want to actually have a real dialogue with your producers, social media provides mechanisms. So you do not need to all go on for social media. Just does not mean Facebook or Twitter. There's a variety of things you can do. You can have managed communities. You could have a two-way dialogue through the community. So there's a variety of things you can do within the sphere of social media, and it's all not Facebook. So there's just so much more than that. But it's ultimately comes down to that two-way dialogue and being able to do it more consistently and in an easier manner. Social media is a huge area of opportunity which most carriers are still struggling with. The other area that we encourage our clients to consider is proactive engagement. So instead of just waiting for producers to come to your portals and that driving the success of your portals, bring them to the portals. So email alerts, newsletters, things that would actually pull them to your digital assets is quite important. We talked about mobile access. So from an engagement perspective, allowing them to have calendar, so being able to manage appointments, being able to see pending business, be able to see their commissions, ability to submit claims. That'll drive more engagement between the employees at the producer as well as the carrier. We talked about information sharing, so turning management information into business advantage. So offering business intelligence, having simple workflow, and again, ability to really share information in a controlled manner is quite important. Talked about business intelligence. Reporting a dashboard, again, seems to be a capability when we ask producer what's important to them. Simple, easy to use reporting is one of the items that comes up at the top of the list. So we talked about how would you make it easy for producers to work with you? How would you partner with them? How would you actually engage with them? And then ultimately, once you have a product, you need to manage the product lifecycle. We see a variety of portals being created, and then essentially what ends up happening is they're built once, and they start to become stale very quickly. Carriers have traditionally not done a good job in managing the improvement and consistently bringing new capabilities on the portals. There's a huge effort to roll out a portal, and then after that it doesn't change for, in some cases, for 5 years, 8 years, barely any changes. So you need a product roadmap. Quite often there's this whole notion of, build everything in one go with a big bang approach. That rarely works. So think about a product roadmap where you're clear on what you roll out in phase 1 and phase 2, so that capabilities are incrementally rolled out, but then also you get time to value, so you can roll out things faster. Marketing and product management should be able to manage the experience. The portal is lesser of an IT asset, it's more of a marketing asset. And the portal that we're seeing that are successful is where marketing is rolling out messaging, where technology is really out of the way. They're able to do what they need to do with the portal in a simple way. And that's where the engagement starts to increase. And that's where product managers can also go in and actually roll out product information without getting IT intricately involved. Technology is available. Marketing needs to be able to manage the experience in real time. So being able to move where content sits on the portal, how it's positioned, able to do A/B testing where they can roll out some tests and see what works. All of this should be available to marketing. These are the levers that they use to manage the experience. So it's very important to think about the product roadmap and then have marketing and product management have the tools to actually service the end producer. Technology. Technology needs to be flexible. There needs to be ease of integration. What we're seeing is that most of the technologies which are going to be used to actually roll out these portals need to have some portal capabilities where you can actually personalize the experience and target it more specifically. Again, should allow marketing and product management to easily manage the experience. That should be a key requirement if you are selecting technology. So quite often we see marketing sit on the sidelines and allow IT teams to build a portal, but ultimately they have to manage the experience. So marketing should be a decision maker in selecting the portal technology. So when you're thinking about a portal technology, think about content management and portal technology. Quite a few content management systems do a good job in managing the portal experience. They're better at actually managing the design and experience than portal technology. Focus on the ecosystem rather than just one tool. So when you think about your portal experience, you will find there's portal, there's an analytics tool, there's a business intelligence capability required, potentially even CRM. So there's a whole ecosystem that is needed to actually manage the experience. So we need to consider these capabilities when we think about the portal. So with that, I will now talk about how do you actually approach such an initiative? How do you get it started? And I'll just spend a few minutes talking about that. It's very important to understand the audience. We see way too often carriers spend time essentially locked in a room and defining requirements for producers. They think they know producers well, but whenever we've done any kind of research or interviewed producers on behalf of the carriers, there's been a lot of surprises in terms of what they truly want. So conducting research is really important. And unlike external websites which do not have login, these portals are login protected. So as a carrier, you may not know what's truly happening in the industry. You may have exposure to a few portals, and you may have, some secondhand information around what other carriers are doing. And then you rely on the Limra reports and so on, which again are just statistics and so on. So conducting the research and speaking to producers they use all these tools. They work with multiple carriers at times, or as through the course of their employment have worked at different carriers. So they can provide a lot of insight as to what is best to read, what is important. But as you start to understand the audience and their needs, segment the producer base. Again, as I mentioned earlier, based on their tenure, based on the channel that they're working in, and a variety of other factors. Essentially segment it so that you can give a differentiated experience for each segment. And engage them. So the interview process can be quite enlightening. Interview across all segments, and you could even potentially roll out surveys if you want to do primary and secondary research. But ensure that the breadth of information that you gather by understanding the audience is both broad and deep. And once you've conducted the research and understanding the audience, be sure to benchmark not only the insurance space, but non-insurance space. So we've seen that portals in other financial services companies, perhaps not in insurance, but in other spaces, could be credit cards and so on, they're very advanced. So there's a lot of learning that can be gathered by benchmarking not only your space, but the broader portal space, broader financial services per se. And as you start to analyze the capabilities, prioritize them, because there's going to be a lot that you would want to include when you start to design the experience. But it's important to prioritize those capabilities and then roadmap it, because Big Bang really works. And then start to design the experience so that focus is on user experience, information architecture, ease of use, and focus on engaging design. So with that, that concludes our webinar. I'm going to actually open the panel for questions. Any questions? Let's gather them. In the meantime, I'll summarize the webinar. So we started to talk about the producer. We talked about the digital maturity curve for distribution portals, and really understanding where you are so you can put a plan to actually get to digital engagement. And then ensuring that you make it easy to work with, for producers to work with you. It's the other way around, not for you to work with the producers, but the other way around. You partner with them. You actually think about engagement strategies. You consider social media seriously. And then you think about the right technology that would be required for you to service them. And then finally, having an approach that really works. This whole notion of sitting in a room, documenting requirements and doing design based on it doesn't work. You need to engage the audience. You need to engage the audience who are going to use tools. And there's a lot of tools available that make it easy today to roll out a survey. It's not difficult. You can easily put it on the existing portal, and you'll see there'll be a lot of responses, and you'll get a lot of insight, and it will allow you to make some confident decisions on the requirements, the priority of requirements, and so on. So those are some things that we recommend that carriers consider as they think about their journey in creating the best-of-breed distribution portal. Any questions?
Yeah.
Wow, I see there's quite a few. So I'll try my best to answer as many as I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, we do have a few questions. The first one would be, what is the best way to gather insight into an agent's needs?
That's a great question, and I believe I just alluded to it, but the best way to gather insight is to ensure that first you understand and segment the audience, because all producers are not equal. They'll have different needs, they'll have different experience, and so on. So going through, and it's a bit of an art and a science, by looking at the analytics of your producer, of your portal, and by talking to the folks who actually service these producers the most. And I think you can start to really identify what segments these producers belong to. And then once you start to segment this audience, then you can start to actually interview them. And the interview, the research process can be qualitative and quantitative. So you could think about doing waves of interviews to see how much information you're gathering, and as you do one wave to another, you can really assess if the incremental information is any different, or you're gathering similar information where you could stop doing the interviews. So these waves of interviews really allow you to gather, the right breadth of information without overdoing it. And then you could potentially run a survey. You can run a survey to do quantitative analysis, so that you can then prioritize the capability that's important. And through this process, what you're doing is you're telling the producers, you're really important. You are important to us, and we will ensure that what you're telling us will be considered. You could consider also, as part of your project, having a board of best practices committee, or a committee that has exposure to other portals and can respond to perhaps design, the requirements and such that you provide. So there's a variety of things you could do in actually engaging with this audience. Next question.
Yeah, the next question is, can insurance portal have a responsive design, or deploying mobile apps is a better option?
This question comes up quite a bit. Do you build apps, right, for mobile, or do you have responsive design where the design and the site actually responds to the particular device that the producer is using? It depends. The answer is depends. So it depends on a few factors. Number one, if you have a lot of external independent agents and they will have their own devices, their own environments, in that case it's very difficult to create applications which are specific to all their different types of devices, from the Androids, the iOS, and so on, Microsoft, and so on. So in that case, there should be a really good need to have an app as opposed to a responsive experience. So that's one consideration. Second, responsive experience is good for lighter information because it has to be accessed real time. For heavier information that perhaps needs to reside on the device, that's where an app may be very helpful. Third aspect is cost. What I find is that in general, when we do these projects across the board, we find that going the app route can be more expensive. Responsive experiences, again, they'll ensure that whether it's a tablet or a mobile device, you're catered to. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're making a decision between responsive and app. And final thing I'd say is that responsive is now mainstream over the last year and a half. It really has become an accepted standard of creating mobile sites. So certainly that's the direction the industry is headed. Next question.
Yeah. It's what technology is best suited to distribution portals?
Technology, I'd say what we're seeing is that the technologies are shifting. Actually, there's a huge shift occurring where earlier, essentially portals were used to drive the experience. Now even content management systems are used to actually drive the experience. So CMSs do a better job in managing the design, the experience, and communication. But portals do a better job perhaps at getting information out from line of business systems. So if you have a lot of integration of back-end systems, we're finding, portals are great tools to use. On the front end, the CMSs that do a good job in managing the experience. There's a variety of tools out there which are successful. We see a lot of SharePoint in the industry where Microsoft is a standard. We see the Oracle and the IBM products quite a bit. We also see CMSs like Sitecore, Electron, and the likes of Adobe CQ being used for portals, where more collaboration is needed, more social capabilities are needed. It's really driven by the need. If there's a lot of experience management required, a lot of social capabilities, perhaps a CMS is a better route. If it's a lot of information surfacing up from line of business systems and ensuring that that capability is available on the portal, and perhaps something which is more portal focused is it could be a route. But what we're also seeing is this combination, this convergence between portals and CMSs, which could make the decision even simpler.
Okay, now we have one more question. It's what benefits does personalization bring to agents?
I would say that personalization should be right up there in a capability that you offer through your portal, and most carriers do not provide this capability. So personalization is you can do it a few ways. One, by segmenting the user base, you can target them with more personalized and relevant content when they log in so that they only see what's relevant to them. Two, you can allow producers to actually personalize the environment for them. So quite often they'd want to have links to particular pages which are relevant to them so that as soon as they log in, the links are available and they can just click and get going. So allowing them to personalize the experience and subscribe to appropriate information is also help. It's very helpful. So we're seeing that the portals which are more personalized get more usage versus those who are not. So personalization has many benefits. These are all soft benefits, but you'll see it in actual usage, which could be a tangible benefit. I realize that we're going to be running out of time soon. My information would be available. Feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. I'd be happy to answer those. And if you need any further information, such as deck and so on, I'd be happy to provide the information. Once again, thank you for joining, and have a great day. With that, we'll just sign off the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
The organizer has ended the session.